Here is what nobody in the gardening space will say plainly. The obsession with sunlight is not science. It's a habit. It is the product of a gardening culture built around open fields and ideal conditions, conditions that describe less than 20% of the actual growing spaces most people have. And while modern gardeners are moving pots, trimming trees, and agonizing over sun charts, a different kind of grower, one who has existed for thousands of years, in forests, in cellars, against stone walls, beneath canopies, has been quietly producing more food per square foot than any sunny bed in the neighborhood. Today, we are counting down from 20, the plants that made that possible. One of them grows in absolute darkness. One was accidentally discovered in a forgotten Belgian cellar and went on to become one of the most celebrated vegetables in European fine dining. And the one we are saving for last, the one sitting in most gardens right now being pulled out like a weed, may be the single most productive shade plant in human history. Stay with me. Every number on this list is going to change something about how you see your garden. Before we begin, one thing I need you to understand. These are not plants that merely survive in shade. That word survive implies weakness. It implies these plants are making do, limping along, producing a fraction of what they would in better conditions. That is not what is happening. Every plant on this list evolved specifically for low-light environments. Their leaf geometry, their root chemistry, their entire reproductive strategy, all of it, was shaped by thousands of years in exactly the conditions your shadiest corner provides. Shade is not a compromise for these plants. It is home. These 20 plants carry 4,000 years of proof. Let's go through them. Number 20. Lettuce. Lettuce is not a modern crop. Wall paintings inside the Egyptian tomb of Senjem, created over 4,000 years ago, show lettuce growing in carefully managed beds, deliberately positioned against shaded walls, sheltered from the midday sun. Those gardeners were not working around a limitation. They had already discovered, through generations of observation, that direct heat destroys this plant. The science is exact. Lettuce cells are composed of a high percentage of water. In direct sun, transpiration, the release of moisture through the leaves, outpaces what the roots can replace. The plant enters heat stress within hours. It bolts. The harvest window collapses to days. In shade, transpiration slows. Internal moisture holds. The plant stays focused entirely on leaf production. The result is lettuce that is crisper, sweeter, and harvestable for 4 to 6 weeks longer than anything grown in a sunny bed. Grow lettuce in any garden, any climate, north-facing beds, beneath taller crops, or against walls, in zones 311. Thrives in dappled to full shade. Your shadiest corner is not the worst place for lettuce. It is the best place. 4,000 years of Egyptian agricultural practice agrees with you. Plant it there and do not look back. Number 19. Spinach. Spinach has a reputation as a sun-loving green. That reputation is costing gardeners harvests every single summer. Spinach was first cultivated in ancient Persia around 600 AD, not in open fields, but in the cool shadows of high mud brick courtyard walls. It spread westward along the Silk Road precisely because it survived conditions that destroyed more delicate crops. What the history books skip over is why. Spinach is what botanists classify as a facultative long-day plant. When day length increases and direct sun intensifies, the plant reads it as a reproductive signal. It bolts within days, the leaves shrink, turn bitter, and the harvest ends. Shade interrupts that signal completely. The plant stays in vegetative production, building those broad, flat, dark green leaves designed to capture diffuse scattered light, exactly what filters through a canopy or bounces off a pale wall. Grow spinach in zones 3-9. Along north-facing fences, beneath taller plants, or in the shadow of your home's exterior wall. Partial to full shade through summer, planted in your shadiest bed. You will still be harvesting weeks after every sunny bed spinach plant has bolted, gone to seed, and been pulled from the ground. Number 18. Kale. In medieval Europe, kale was not a superfood. It was survival food. It grew along the shaded north sides of cottages, in the cold shadow of monastery walls, in the corners of kitchen gardens where nothing else would produce. It fed entire families through winters, harsh enough to kill every other crop in the ground. That resilience has a biological explanation. Kale belongs to the Brassica family, which evolved in the cool, partially shaded woodland margins of Europe and Asia. Its cellular structure is built for efficiency under low-light broad leaves, packed with chlorophyll-dense cells that extract energy from minimal, diffuse light. Here is what surprises most gardeners. Shade makes kale more nutritious, not less. In direct sun, kale grows fast, but rapid growth dilutes its cellular density. In shade, growth slows, and the leaves that form are measurably higher in glucosinolates, vitamin K, and beta-carotene per gram than sun-grown equivalents. Grow kale in zones 310, north-facing beds, shaded corners, beneath taller crops. Requires as little as 3 hours of indirect light daily. Harvest the outer leaves every week. It will produce deep into autumn and in mild climates, through winter without complaint. Number 17. Arugula. Roman soldiers carried arugula in their field rations. First-century texts document it as both a stamina food and a medicinal herb grown along the shaded edges of Mediterranean gardens, in the cool shadows where stone walls blocked afternoon sun and kept the air a few critical degrees lower. In direct summer sun, arugula bolts in days. The flavor turns from peppery to acrid, genuinely harsh, and nearly inedible. But shade does something scientifically remarkable. It increases arugula's glucosinolate production. These are the sulfur-containing compounds responsible for its signature depth of flavor and among the most studied anti-inflammatory, cancer-preventive compounds in the Brassica family. Shade does not just extend arugula's life, it makes it more potent. Grow arugula in zones 311, any shaded bed, beneath taller plants, along shaded walls. Tolerates partial to deep shade through the growing season. Scatter seed, harvest continuously. It will produce from early spring through late autumn in conditions that would end its life in full sun within a week. Number 16. Peas. Archaeological evidence places peas among the earliest cultivated crops in human history, grown over 10,000 years ago across the Middle East. But not in open fields, in cool mountain valleys, sheltered ridgelines, and shaded lowland corridors where temperatures stayed consistent and the light was filtered. Modern gardeners plant peas in full sun and wonder why harvests collapse by midsummer. The answer is the flower. Pea blossoms are extraordinarily heat-sensitive. When soil and air temperature rise under direct sunlight, the plant aborts its own flowers before they can form pods. No flowers, no pods, no harvest. A trellis against a north-facing wall, or peas grown beneath the canopy of taller plants, keeps temperatures low enough that the blossoms hold. The pods fill completely. The productive season extends by 4 to 6 weeks. Grow PES in zones 3, 9. North-facing trellises, beneath sunflowers or corn, or along shaded fence lines. Thrives in morning sun with afternoon shade. If your peas have always disappointed you, do not change the variety. Change the location. Number 15. Garlic. Garlic cloves were found in the tomb of Tutankhamun, placed there as offerings, which tells you precisely how valued this plant was. Its cultivation history stretches over 5,000 years across Egypt, Mesopotamia, China, and India. And throughout that history, it was grown not in open sun-drenched plots, but in the dappled, partially shaded margins of larger garden beds. The reason is biological. Garlic is a bulb crop. It stores energy underground. Its dependence on photosynthesis is far lower than any fruiting plant because it is not building fruit, it is building a storage organ beneath the soil. What shade provides for garlic is not light, it is soil temperature. Shaded soil stays cooler and retains moisture longer. In summer, sun-heated soil suppresses root activity and reduces bulb size. In shade, the bulbs develop larger, with more complex flavor and longer storage life. Grow garlic in zones 3-9. Shaded raised beds, north-facing plots, beneath the canopy of taller perennials. Plant in autumn, harvest the following summer. Plant it in autumn in your shadiest bed. Give it the winter it needs. You will barely think about it until summer arrives. When you lift it, brush off the soil and hold it in your hand. You will understand exactly why it has been grown this way for 5,000 years. Number 14. Carrots. This is where most gardeners push back. Carrots appear on every full sun list, but the history and science tell a more accurate story. Carrots were first cultivated in the mountainous regions of modern Afghanistan roughly 1,000 years ago in cool, high-altitude valleys where direct sun was inconsistent and soil temperatures stayed low through summer. The deep orange variety familiar today is a Dutch development from the 17th century, selected for color, not sun tolerance. In warm and hot climates, shade is not just acceptable for carrots, it is often superior. Direct sun heats the soil. Hot soil causes roots to fork, crack, and turn woody. Cool, shaded soil keeps the growing medium at the consistent temperature. Roots need to develop evenly, smoothly, and with concentrated sweetness. Grow carrots in zones 3-10, particularly in climates with hot summers. Shaded raised beds with deep, loose soil. Morning sun with full afternoon shade is ideal. The tops will be smaller. The roots will be better. Number 13. Bok choy. We are approaching the core of this list, and the plants from here become increasingly surprising. Bok choy has been cultivated in China for over 1,500 years. In the traditional polyculture systems of southern China, it was always positioned beneath taller crops in the cool shade of companion plants. This was not accidental. It was deliberate, layered design, refined across centuries of observation. In direct sun, bok choy bolts rapidly, and the stems turn fibrous and tough. In shade, stalks stay crisp and dense, leaves stay tender, and the plant continues producing rather than rushing to seed. The science is precise. Bok choy peaks in texture and flavor quality at soil temperatures between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, a window that shade maintains even as summer progresses. Grow bok choy in zones 4-11, beneath taller crops, along shaded walls, in north-facing beds. Keep soil consistently moist. Harvest at palm size. It will produce more than you expect from a space you expected nothing from. Number 12. Watercress. Roman soldiers gathered watercress from shaded stream banks during campaigns across northern Europe, not because it was the only food available, but because it was among the most nutritionally complete foods they could find in the field. Francis Bacon documented its medicinal properties in the 17th century. Throughout England's industrial era, it fed working-class communities harvested from the shaded waterways running through the countryside. It grows naturally in flowing water beneath dense tree canopy, an environment that receives almost no direct sunlight at any point in the day. It does not merely tolerate shade, it requires it. Full sun, in its native habitat, is the anomaly. Nutritionally, it is among the most micronutrient-dense leafy greens, measured extraordinarily rich in vitamins K, C, and A, and in antioxidant compounds that research continues to study. Grow watercress in zones 3-9. Containers or shallow trays of water positioned in deep shade. Requires consistent moisture and cool temperatures. No direct sun needed. It grew in shadows for millennia, feeding people quietly and abundantly. Number 11. Mint. If you have a corner so dark that nothing seems willing to grow there, plant mint. Then largely forget about it. Mint evolved on the cool, moist, shaded riverbanks and woodland floors of the Mediterranean and Middle East. It has been in continuous human use for over 2,000 years on Greek altars, on Roman dining tables, in the physic gardens of medieval monasteries, where it was grown as a foundational healing herb. Here is what shade does that most gardeners never consider. It controls mint. In full sun, mint spreads through underground runners at a rate that overwhelms a garden bed in a single season. Shade slows that lateral spread dramatically, channeling the plant's energy upward into leaf production instead of outward into colonization. Grow mint in zones 3-11. Any shaded corner, ideally in a container to manage spread further. Requires occasional watering only. Thrives in partial to full shade. Water occasionally. Harvest generously. It returns that arrangement reliably for years. Number 10. Cilantro. Most gardeners believe they cannot grow cilantro. They have tried. It looked perfect for 2 weeks, then bolted, lost every leaf, and was finished. They blame themselves. The real problem was the sun. Cilantro originated in the cooler, partially shaded regions of southern Europe and Western Asia. Bronze Age sites in Israel have yielded cilantro seeds with evidence of deliberate cultivation. This plant is ancient. and it evolved for specific conditions that modern advice consistently ignores. In full sun, cilantro completes its entire reproductive cycle in as little as 3 weeks. The usable harvest window is almost impossibly short. In shade, the bolt cycle slows dramatically. Leaves stay broad, flat, and harvestable for weeks longer. The flavor stays bright and complex rather than fading to soapy bitterness. Grow cilantro in Zones 311, shadiest available bed, north-facing if possible. Succession sow every 2 to 3 weeks for continuous harvest spring through autumn. The herb everyone thinks is difficult simply needed to be moved out of the light. Number 9. Swiss chard. Swiss chard did not originate in Switzerland. It grew wild along the rocky, partially shaded cliffsides of the Mediterranean coast, in thin, cool soil between salt-sprayed boulders and sea. Ancient Greeks and Romans documented it as both food and medicine, recognizing unusual versatility in a plant that thrived where others would not. What happens to Swiss chard in shade is one of the most visually striking phenomena in the garden. Its stems, those architectural reds, yellows, and oranges, intensify under lower light. The plant produces more anthocyanins and carotenoids as a biological response to reduced sunlight. The result is a vegetable that is simultaneously more beautiful and more nutritionally dense grown in shade than in sun. Grow Swiss chard in Zones 310. North-facing beds, shaded corners, beneath larger crops. Requires only 2 to 4 hours of indirect light daily. Productive across multiple seasons. Harvest the outer leaves. Let the center continue. It will give generously for as long as you let it. Number 8. Mizuna and tatsoi. 2 plants, 1 entry. Both deserve a permanent place in every shade garden, and most Western gardeners have grown neither. Mizuna and tatsoi both originate from Japan and China, where they have been cultivated for centuries in the cool, partially shaded conditions of traditional kitchen gardens. They are Japanese culinary staples, mild, versatile, and extraordinarily productive, and almost entirely unknown in Western mainstream gardening. In shade, both perform measurably better than in sun. Mizuna's feathery leaves stay tender and sweet. Tatsoi forms dense, architectural dark green rosettes that hold flavor and texture through multiple harvests. Both are bolt-resistant in shade, cold-tolerant, and ready for first harvest within 3 to 4 weeks of planting. Both regrow reliably after cutting one sowing, delivers harvests across an entire season. Grow Mizuna and tatsoi in Zones 4-9. Any shaded or partially shaded bed. Cold hardy enough for autumn and early winter growing. Direct sun will bolt them. Shade is where they belong. The world's most productive kitchen gardens have grown these for centuries. It is time to catch up. Number 7. Sorrel. Sorrel has been eaten for over 4,000 years. It appears in ancient Greek and Roman texts, medieval European herbals, and folk food traditions from France to Russia to West Africa. It is perennial, meaning once established, it returns every year from the same root system, indefinitely, without replanting. It grows naturally in partially shaded woodland edges and forest clearings. In dappled, indirect light, its flavor is bright, sharp, and lemony. It functions in cooking the way lemon juice does, adding acidity and complexity to salads, soups, and sauces. It tolerates deep shade, poor soil, irregular watering, frost, and neglect with almost no visible stress. Grow sorrel in Zones 3-9. Permanent shaded beds, woodland gardens, beneath deciduous trees. Plant once, harvest for life. Requires almost no maintenance after the first season. It is, in practical terms, the most reliable food plant on this entire list, and it will grow in your darkest corner, year after year, for the rest of your gardening life. Number 6. Mache corn salad, lamb's lettuce. I want to pause here, because this one still surprises me every season. Mache, also called corn salad or lamb's lettuce, grew wild in the shaded margins of European grain fields for centuries, harvested by hand through winter months when every other green had died. In the 17th century, it became a cultivated staple in the kitchen gardens of French monasteries, grown deliberately because it produced in conditions that ended every other crop's season. It is cold hardy below freezing. It produces in deep shade with no supplemental light. It needs almost no water. In the lowest light corner of a tested garden, It outperforms every other leafy green, not marginally, but significantly through autumn and into early winter. Its rosette growth form keeps it close to the ground where temperatures are stable and diffuse light, however limited, is most consistently available. Grow Meiji in zones 3-7 for winter growing. Zones 8-11 for cool season production. Deep shade is not a barrier, it is the preference. Sow in early autumn for winter and early spring harvest. The flavor is mild, distinctly nutty, and unlike anything most gardeners have tasted fresh from their own soil. Plant it in your deepest shade this autumn. Then prepare to be genuinely astonished. Number 5. Mushrooms. Technically a fungus. Included here because no honest list of shade-growing edibles leaves mushrooms out. Chinese records from approximately 600 AD describe the deliberate cultivation of shiitake mushrooms on shaded, inoculated logs, a method still producing extraordinary results today. Mushrooms do not photosynthesize. They require no light at any stage of growth. Direct sunlight does not merely fail to help them, it actively damages them, desiccating the surface mycelium and halting all fruiting immediately. The ideal mushroom habitat is wherever your garden receives zero sun. Beneath a deck, against a north-facing wall, under dense tree canopy, in the permanent shadow of a structure, inoculated logs, straw beds, or ready-to-fruit kits placed in your darkest, most consistently moist space will produce oyster, shiitake, or winecap mushrooms with minimal intervention. Grow mushrooms in any zone. No sunlight needed or wanted. Consistent moisture and cool temperatures are the only requirements. Beneath structures or dense canopy is ideal. This is food grown in complete darkness, from material most gardeners discard, in the space most gardeners have written off entirely. Number 4. Perilla. Shiso. Most Western gardeners have never grown perilla. That is about to change. Perilla shiso in Japan has been central to East Asian cuisine and medicine for over 2,000 years. It appears in Chinese medical texts from the Han Dynasty around 200 BC. It wraps sushi, garnishes sashimi, and goes into umeboshi pickling brine in Japanese cooking. In Korea, it is eaten fresh as sam, a leaf wrapper for grilled meat. It grows naturally in the partially shaded forest understory of East Asia beneath larger trees, in dappled woodland light. Not a sunny herb border. Not an open raised bed. Filtered shade is its native condition. In a shaded garden bed, perilla produces enormous leaves, deep green or striking purple-red depending on variety, with a flavor that combines mint, basil, and anise into something entirely its own. One plant produces hundreds of harvestable leaves across a season with almost no care. Grow perilla in zones 5-10. Shaded or partially shaded beds, woodland gardens, beneath taller plants. Afternoon shade in warmer climates prevents bolting and keeps leaf size at its maximum. Grow it once. You will grow it for the rest of your gardening life. Number 3. Endive and chicory. What happens to endive and chicory in darkness is not a limitation. It is the entire technique. These plants trace back to ancient Egypt, but their transformation into a celebrated culinary vegetable happened in 19th century Belgium. Through the practice of deliberate blanching, growers discovered that depriving the plant of all light during its final weeks produced leaves that were sweeter, paler, and more complex in flavor than anything sun-grown. This was refined into the forced chicory method. Shikans, grown from start to finish in complete darkness, in cool, climate-controlled cellars, never seeing a single ray of light. The result became one of Belgium's most celebrated culinary exports, served in the finest restaurants in Paris and Brussels, prized by chefs specifically for what the darkness produced. In a home garden, endive and chicory thrive in partial to full shade, producing bitter, elegant, nutritionally dense greens. For those willing to attempt the full forcing process, pot, soil, dark cupboard, the result is one of the most refined vegetables you will grow yourself. Grow endive and chicory in zones 3-9. Partial to full shade for standard growing. For forced chicory, dig roots in autumn and sprout in complete darkness. Indoors works in any zone, any climate. The darkness is not a limitation. It is the technique. Number 2. Belgian endive. Forced chicory. In the winter of 1830, A Belgian farmer named John Lammers stored chicory roots in his cellar and forgot about them. When he returned months later, the roots had sprouted. Not into the tough, bitter greens he knew from the garden, but into pale, compact, extraordinarily tender heads of leaves, unlike anything he had tasted. He told no one at first. Then he told everyone. Within 2 decades, forced chicory had spread across Belgium and into France. By the late 19th century, it was on the menus of the finest restaurants in Paris and Brussels, celebrated by chefs, studied by agronomists, exported across Europe as one of the continent's most refined vegetables. Born in a forgotten cellar, in complete darkness, entirely by accident. Today, Belgian endive is grown commercially in dark climate-controlled warehouses, 0 sunlight from planting to harvest. You can replicate the entire process at home. Dig up mature chicory roots in autumn, pot in moist soil, place in a cool, dark space. Wait 6 weeks. Grow Belgian endive in any zone grown entirely indoors in darkness. No garden space, no light, no sun exposure required at any stage. A pot and a dark cupboard is everything you need. What emerges from that darkness is not what went in. Some of the most extraordinary things in this world come from staying in the dark long enough to become something worth tasting. Number 1. Ground elder, Agopodium, Podagraria. And here, saved for last, is the one that changes everything. Ground elder is the plant most gardeners spend significant time, energy, and real frustration trying to destroy. It spreads through shaded beds, beneath trees, along fence lines, in neglected corners, with what feels like deliberate malice. It appears in weed management guides. It is the subject of endless forum posts asking how to kill it permanently. Here is what those guides do not tell you. Ground elder, also called bishop's weed, herb Gerard, and goutweed, was one of the most deliberately cultivated food plants in medieval Europe. It was not in monastery gardens by accident. It was carried there by monks who valued it, planted intentionally in the deepest shade of orchard trees and stone walls, and used as a spring vegetable in the same way spinach is used today. Its medieval name herb Gerard honors Saint Gerard of Toul, patron saint of gout and arthritis sufferers, because this plant was used medicinally for both conditions for centuries. Modern research is now examining its anti-inflammatory compounds, flavonoids, polyacetylines, and falcarinol among them, and early findings align precisely with centuries of recorded medicinal use. Nutritionally, it is rich in vitamin C and A, calcium, potassium, and iron. It grows in deepest shade. It requires no planting because it is almost certainly already in your garden. The young spring leaves, harvested before flowering, are mild and genuinely pleasant, cooked briefly in butter or oil. Grows ground elder in zones 3-9. Deep shade beneath trees, along north-facing walls, in any neglected corner. Requires no planting, no maintenance, no watering. It is already there. The most productive shade plant on this list, the one that grows without a single input from you, that has fed European communities for over 1,000 years, is the plant you have been pulling out by the roots. Stop pulling it. Start eating it. Every plant on this list shares one thing. None of them are waiting for better conditions. That is the most important sentence in this video. Spinach is not waiting for more sun. Watercress does not wish for a brighter corner. Ground elder is not making do. These plants identified the available conditions, calibrated every aspect of their biology to those conditions, and produced abundantly, reliably, over thousands of years in the spaces modern gardening has written off entirely. The humans who grew them understood this instinctively. Egyptian gardeners, Roman soldiers, medieval monks, Chinese farmers who built entire food systems in layered shade, none of them waited for perfect conditions. They worked with what was there, and what was there fed civilizations. We inherited the same gardens, the same shade, the same corners. What we lost was the willingness to see those spaces as growing environments rather than problems. Your shadiest corner is not wasted space. It is an unclaimed space. One is a limitation. The other is an invitation. These 20 plants are not exceptions to the rules of growing. They are proof that the rules were always incomplete. Shade is not the absence of a growing condition. It is a growing condition, one that has quietly sustained human life for longer than recorded history can fully trace. Your darkest corner might be your most powerful one. It always has been. The plants are ready. History has been ready for 4,000 years. Now you are too. Go grow something. Which one of these plants is already in your garden right now, whether you planted it or not? Drop it in the comments. And if this kind of content adds something real to your growing genuine history, accurate science, plants that actually perform, subscribe. Every week, we uncover more of what the garden has always been trying to teach us. Most of it has been waiting there, quietly, in the shade.